Lesson 3.4, Displaying Bivariate Numerical Data. All right, so in this lesson, we are going to talk about two different ways to display bivariate numerical data. So bivariate, just to remind you guys, means there are two variables in the data set, and numerical, you guys hopefully remember that as well. All right, so the first one is scatter plots, and I think you guys are pretty familiar with scatter plots. Just make sure you know how to construct a scatter plot correctly. So the first thing you need to have is a horizontal and a vertical axes. All right, and you want to mark it with the appropriate intervals. Now, it's important that these intervals are even. So let's say we're going by tens here, and let's say we're going to go by hundreds here. So the important thing is that you have even intervals, so each jump is worth the same, and also make sure you label your axes. So for example, if this was height in pounds, in feet, that makes more sense, and weight would be in pounds. All right, so make sure that you label both axes. All right, now something that I think some people like to do when they do their axes is they like to do like a squiggle to kind of make it like a further jump. I prefer that you guys don't do that. So if you can, just make sure that you start at 0 on your axes and then jump from the same amount each time. So don't do something like we're going from, you start at like 100 and then you start going by tens. All right, so that's what you don't want to do. All right, so that is scatter plots, and what it's nice is that you can see if there's any sort of positive or negative relationship between these two variables. As one is increasing, what's going on with the other variable? Is it a strong relationship? Is it a weak relationship? And we'll actually get a lot more into that in Chapter 5. But for now, that's all we're going to say about scatter plots. Okay, let's go down to time series plots. All right, so time series plots are actually very similar to scatter plots, where the x-axis is the variable time, all right, in weeks, days, years, it doesn't matter, but it's a scatter plot where the x variable is time. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to see if there is like a trend to see how something changes over time. And if you notice in this example, you see that the points are connected as opposed to the scatter plot where these dots are all separate. Okay, so that's one thing that's different. You have isolated dots for the scatter plot. For the time series plots, we have a connection between each point. All right, so for example, in this box office plot, we have, it is a time series plots of movie box office totals in millions of dollars over 18 weeks in the summer for 2001 and 2002. And generally, we just want to see any sort of pattern we can find in this time series plot. So already, I kind of noticed that they're going along the same trend. So especially I notice right here, there's a dip, and then there's like a peak here, a dip here, peak, a little bit of a dip, not so much right there, a peak, and then it drops all the way down here. So I kind of see that overall trend right there. And so if I were to describe any trends or pattern that I see, I would say that, according to the 2001 and 2002 data, there seems to be seasonal peaks at week 4. All right. So week 4, there's one peak right there. And week 9, there's a peak, and around week 14, there's a peak. All right, so it seems to peak at those weeks, and then there seems to be lows at weeks get another color. All right, there's definitely a low at week 2. 6, there seems to be a dip right there, so a low at 6. 10 through 12, it just seems to have like a steady decrease there, and then it continues a drop after week 14. There's a decline all the way down to week 18. All right, so anytime you're asked to describe, any trends or patterns that you see, you want to talk about any, peaks, any dips, and any just kind of trends that you see. All right, so that is our lesson.